Hey folks, it's the Bert from the Bert's Flies and Guide Service. Just checking in here with another tying tutorial video. Uh, Today I'm going to be tying a beadhead pheasant tail, and I'm actually going to do the flashback version because it's tied essentially the same way. Just add one piece to it to make it the flashback. Yeah, it's still early May here in Maine. We actually see that giant yellowish orangey ball in the sky today. I think it's called the sun. It's been a crazy rain, which is good and bad. Fishing's been fairly slow so far to start the season, but I managed to get into some pretty decent fish this past Sunday up on one of the lakes. Landed a few splake, so not bad. Managed a brown about a month ago. And that's about it so far. The rivers have been so high. Fly fishing in the rivers has been fairly non-existent for me in my area so far. But the pheasant tail is a must-have for any fly fisherman. It's a great all-around mayfly imitation. And today I'm going to show you the flashback version, which adds just a little bit of flash, a little bit more sparkle to it. So, and the other thing too, being early May and it looks like some of the heavy rain has finally subsided. We're supposed to get a little bit more rain this week, but all the water replaced a lot of the water that we had lost last year in pretty much drought conditions here. Once it kind of subsides, the fishing should be absolutely phenomenal. A lot of the fish should be in the rivers, and I'm really looking forward to it. We got a few trips booked here late in May and late in June, and then in September. So a lot of openings. If anybody is interested in jumping in the boat, jumping in the canoe, kayaks, jumping in the river, wherever you'd like to go, we'll get you on some nice brook trout, some salmon, maybe a few rainbows or some browns, or whatever else you'd like. There's pretty much any kind of good fish species here. And one of the flies that we would definitely be using will be the pheasant tail. So in the hook is a size 16 with a 2.4 millimeter gold bead. I'm not going to put anything on this to weight it. It's a fairly small fly. I'm going to be using some brown thread. I have my pheasant tail, which is just a natural brown, and it's fairly soft fibers, which I like for these flies. Copper ultra wire for the ribbing, and some medium mirage tinsel for the flash, as well as some peacock curl. I'll just use a couple pieces of that. So we'll start off slapping some thread on here. I would start right behind the bead. I've got a really long thread right now for some reason, but get a few good wraps, snip off the excess. Wind that back just about the bend of the hook, or not to the bend of the hook, to the where the barb would be. This hook that I have in here actually has a very, very small, it's essentially a barbless hook. And now I'm going to tie in my copper wire first. And make sure with this you use the ultra wire. You want a nice small rib on it. You do not need a very big piece for these. A 6-inch piece you could probably get away with, probably 3-4 flies, depending on how tight you make the ribs. I tie this in up to about where I'm going to start the wing casing. I don't want to put a lot of material where the wing casing is going to be, just because there's a few things you got to put in up there. So there's the wire. So I'm going to grab probably 6 to 8 fibers from my pheasant tail for the tail and the body at the same time. Get a good clump. Peel them off. Make sure that the tips are aligned. These have a really pointy, fine tips. So what I do with these, I actually just kind of pull that fine, real tip of it off. Just pull it off. It usually just pops right off. And you get a nice, even tail. Like that. And I'm going to tie, this is going to be about 3/4 or so the length of the hook shaft for the tail. So you pretty much go from the eye to right around where the barb is. Alright. That tied in. Now what I'm going to do, I have all this excess fibers. That's what I'm going to actually just use this for the body itself. So I've got that tied in. Now I'm going to take those fibers, get them all together first, and I'm going to begin wrapping them to form the body. Oops, looks like I got one caught around the hook. There we go. A nice even body. I'm going to go ahead and tie this off. A couple wraps behind, a few wraps in front to make sure it's nice and tight. Snip off the excess. Again, make sure it's nice and tight. Now I'll take my gold ribbing. Keep these pretty tight. All the way up to where the wing case is going to be. Again, couple behind, couple in front. Get a snip or a helicopter off the excess and tie that down. Now what I do with the tail, I want to make sure it's out nice and straight. I separate the fibers on these. Often when you peel it off the stem of the feather, they're all stuck together. So I just splay them out, separate them. Alright, so it's time for the wing casing. First step, I'm going to tie in my the tinsel, the Mirage tinsel, which is going to be used for the flashback portion of it. And you don't need a very big piece of this. You'll see some of these, some people will tie them in with 2 pieces of tinsel. I'm just going to use 1 piece on this one. Almost like you would like a copper john. sure that's nice and straight. There you go. All right, next is going to be the other pheasant tail fibers for the wing case itself and the legs. So again, on this, I'm going to pull off about 10 or so fibers, 8 to 10. All right. Again, make sure the tips align. Now what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to go from the tips. I'm going to measure from the eye about just past the bend of the hook, maybe about a hook gap length past the bend. And then I'm going to go ahead, probably just heard my dog bark. I'm going to go ahead and tie that in. Snip off the excess, which is the butt end. Alright, and next is going to be some peacock curl. I use 2 pieces for this. You don't need a lot. You know, I'm trying to make a big wing case on this. A couple pieces of peacock curl. Tie that in nice and tight. Snip off the excess again. I leave a little bit so I can kind of grind it in underneath the bead. Make sure that bead is nice and locked into place. Isn't gonna slide around. Put those together. Wrap them together. Try to get those fibers to splay out from it. Be careful not to tug on these too hard. Peacock curl is really brittle. You can see the fibers extend just a little bit out over the bead. A couple wraps behind, a couple wraps in front to tie it in tight. Snip off the excess. A couple more turns just to get that all in. Alright, now you take your pheasant tail fibers that you just had that you're going to use for the wing casing. Pull that up over the top. Put a turn, tighten that in. Put a couple turns. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my thumb, put some thumb pressure on this. Actually, I'm going to spread these fibers out again. Want to stick together today. There we go. You get those fibers spread out. You use your thumb, put some pressure right at where you just tied it in. Push them back, and then pull them kind of down to the side. On each side, try to do it evenly. Hold them down. Put a couple turns over the top of them. And that'll give you the legs for the fly. And then I can just take that strip of Mirage tinsel right over the top of everything. Tie that in. Snip off the excess once again. Couple more turns. Whip finish this off. Pull it nice and tight. All right. And then I'm going to take some head cement, and I'm actually going to cover the entire wing case with head cement. Makes the wing case nice and hard and firm, adds a lot of stability. Gives it a nice smooth look. And there you have it. Pheasant Tail flashback. That my camera won't really focus on all that well. But great fly. Good all year, especially early. Nice and small, use them nice and small early in the season. And you can catch some big fish on these little flies. Alright, that's pretty much it. Please check me out on Etsy, on Facebook, the Burt's Flies and Guide Service. If you like my videos, you can subscribe to my YouTube channel, which again, just YouTube and search the Burt's Flies and Guide Service. If you like what you see, subscribe. You can see all that I tie on Etsy. And if you like it, leave me a review, send me an order. And I'm also on Yelp if you want to jump on Yelp and leave a review there. Alright, thank you, and hope you enjoyed. And we'll see you next time. Bye.